In 1968, I went on radio. The Gospel Supreme, we started singing. Traveling Echoes was on the radio. At that time, we didn't have a black announcer, so I got interested in the works of the station. So I ended up going up there, and I first had, I think it was 15 minutes talking on the radio or introducing the group or the song that they were singing or something like that. And I went from there, and I got 3 hours. It starts at 6 o'clock. A lot of times, a lot of people say they don't even get up. They just have the clock set and the radio scheduled to come on at 6. So, and I told them, I said, it doesn't matter where you're up or not. If you listen, if the good Lord's willing, I said, we'll make you move. My young days growing up, my dad always took me around to singing services, and my dad, he was a singer. I started singing in a choir here at Cedar Grove Baptist Church when I was 5 years old, and my mom was the manager of the choir. She always was my number one fan. Yeah, she always said, you can do it. If I thought I couldn't, and then you can do it. So I guess that's how I started singing and do as well as I do, because I can still hear her saying, you can do it. The first group that I actually sung with was the family group, and it was called the Ramsey Trio. And that was my sister and my brother. As I got older and grew up and called myself grown, I wanted to expand my singing with different people.
My father, he was a Sunday school teacher. He was a superintendent at Young's Chapel Baptist Church. He was the originator, founder of the quartet, traveling sextets of Roxboro. My first time hearing them, I think I was about 7 or 8. We used to hear them rehearse in one room. Then after they rehearsal, my father would call us in. He said, okay, let's go over a song. His dream was that have a family quartet. He got to know Vic Hester. Vic Hester was always a member of the traveling sextet, but there were other members along the way. I remember Matthew Wade singing. I remember Aaron Wade, but my father wanted his children. So as we got older, one of the family members would move in. Van was in the group, Burley was in the group, my other brother Roper was in the group, George joined the group. We were never short of a member. And again, my father didn't believe in announcing what you were going to sing before you sang the song. We could tell what he was going to sing by the way he talked. And this is the way that we learn.
I've been lied. Cheated. Talked about. Mistreated. Go ahead.
I never led a song with the traveling sextet. My first leading a song was with the Joylettes of Roxboro.
You got to have faith, hope, and charity. The greatest gift of all.
Our cousin, they pull like from the choir, they just started singing that quartet. Just at that time, just with men. You didn't hear women like a quartet. Then later on, we found out women could sing quartet music as good as men could. Yeah.
It was Martha Pettiford, Fanny Pettiford, Evangeline Pettiford, Carolyn Pettiford. Those four of us, right?
From the family, we had our piano player was Garnett McCain.
Mm-hmm.
She played for as we grew up through the year.
Ophelia
came in.
Ophelia Pettiford Richardson came in there too.
That was Magnum's sister.
Mm-hmm.
They sung with her. Then we had also their niece sung with for a while. That was Margaret.
Mm-hmm. Margaret
Pettiford Pulliam.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been through a little bit, in and out, but the sisters stayed together.
Yeah. Sure.
Then we had Lydia.
Lydia came in there too.
Yeah, Lydia McGee. So she sung with us for a long time. Until she died, really. Mm-hmm. We always like sisters. They say that Helen Jacob gave the name of the Joliet singers. Mm-hmm. It was our cousin William O'Brien, then Helen, Martha.
I think Martha brought us in, right?
Yeah.
She was one of the
top beautician in Roxboro.
Top beautician in Roxboro. Ran the Martha Beauty Shop. She was there for over 30, 40 years as a businesswoman.
Then also Mac sung with us too.
Yeah, Mac, he was our main leader, really. Martha took him under her wing like a son, and I think she wanted to make sure he stayed out the street. Mm-hmm. So she pulled him in to sing, to stay on the
right road.
Right road, yeah.
I was just happened to be home one Sunday. My brother Robert was singing with him, but somehow or another he was out of town. He had moved, relocated. So Pettiford came, Martha, and told me to get in the car, come on, go with us. We going singing, okay? I had never sang with them, but we rehearsed a song on the way to church. We were going to Mount Zion in Hillsboro on 85. That's my first outing as far as leading a song. I've always been in the background and I loved it. But Sister Martha said, well, you will lead this song. And she just took the place of my father.
Martha, she was a promoter. She had the big singers come to Roxboro to uplift Roxboro. You know, while people were around the area where they couldn't get to Durham, the people here go down to Kirby and listen to them. Pay and go in and listen to them.
Mm-hmm. They had been singing, I won't say years, but they were singing a long time before I joined them. And they were good. They were also a cappella. They sang without music. And even when I left, they still good.
We could sing very well, but the main thing was this Holy Spirit. And we were singing different churches and
out of town
and just sing and deliver and make people happy, uplifted, inspiring, you know. Just got a joy in doing that. It was still ministering to the people.
Then meanwhile doing that, I'm going to throw this in.
Okay.
God gave her a message and she had to tell it everywhere she go with the group also.
Okay. What was your message?
Oh, I tell that too.
I mean, if you want to.
Well, the Lord, I can tell you, I need to tell it, don't I? Well, when I was 19 years old, God chose me to tell a message, and the message was, it goes like this, okay? I'm just going to give it, you can edit how you want to do it, but it goes like this. I would tell it everywhere I go, and it said on October 10th of 1970, God woke me up on that Saturday morning. He told me, wanted to talk to me. At the time, as I was laying in the bed, 3 o'clock in the morning, when he was speaking to me, I was afraid, and I didn't know what was going happening to me. I thought I was dying, and the voice was speaking to me and said, get up. I want to talk to you. So I got up and I was just walking around trying to figure out where this voice is coming from. And I laid back down, and the voice said, I want to talk to you. And I'm talking to the voice, which is the voice of the Lord. It's like I'm talking to you. And it said, I want you to go out and talk to the people. Let them know that they need to get right, to come to Him. And so I was trying to deliver that message to people, and that really got me
My name is Carolyn Pettiford
expanded.
Miles, and my
And I was doing that
praise.
from 19
So what's
till
the
now,
high praise?
talking to people,
Hallelujah.
trying to encourage people, let them know all about God, to save their soul, because there's a lot of lost souls out there in the world. And it really, I have a compassion for that. I just want to see people just to do the right thing, not to be destroyed. I would sing and tell the testimony. I think, thank you, Lord. I think they saw the realness in us, that we were real. We weren't faking people, They saw something inside of us that we could deliver.
They was a wonderful group. I kind of hate when I left, but then the Gospel Travelers came along. We heard David singing with his sisters. So I said, Burley, he would be a good guy. I said, I know David, been knowing David, we've been in school together. I said, we need to put him in. If we're going to organize this group, get it together, we need him.
In this group, there were MacArthur Pettiford, Burley Pettiford, Victor Hester, James Lunsford, Michael Whitfield, Freddie McGee, and at that time, little Stacy, he was just a small boy. He was just following his Uncle Mac up and down the aisle as he was singing the song. He was in the group, and myself, that made up the Mighty Gospel Travelers.
Burley Pettiford was my dad. He married Emma Hester. So everybody knows her, Emma Sue Pettiford, because she's a busybody in Roxboro and really spends a lot of time at Hester Whitted and Day, actually works there and did a lot there, especially after my dad passed over 20 years ago. Growing up with my dad, music or church was always something that happened. It wasn't like we didn't have a choice. You just went to church. One of the main reasons we were always in church is because, as long as I can remember, Daddy was always in a singing group. My dad would get us together and started us to harmonize at home. And because we were going to, of course, we were at all of the rehearsals pretty much of the Mighty Gospel Travelers, then we decided so Stacy could really sing, have the opportunity to actually sing, is we decided to form the group, the Soul Travelers. And that was myself, Stacy, my sister Beverly, and my cousin Montrella. And from time to time, we would be bold enough to try to sing a song that the Gospel Travelers sang. And if we did it well, then they would let us sing the song. And then they never sang it again. It was like, that's the child stuff. So that was fun. And then, of course, Stacy was really young, like 4. And he was really interesting to watch because he really was modeling Uncle Mac as a lead singer in the group.
My uncle, he's the one that after singing with him and watching him, because I used to watch him, and that was more so like an idol. A lot of what I did, I actually learned by watching him.
Mac and Burley was a member of the traveling sextet. Vic Hester was a member of that group as well. So he was the bass man. He was the one that kept the timing, and he loved to sing that bass, the bottom part.
Quartets, every once in a while would have a contest for bassers. And there was a harmonizing four out of Richmond. The Dixie Hummingbirds had a good basser. We didn't back down to many of them. Vic Hester was a true basser, and he led songs. That was a bass song for him to sing. Burley would lead the song. I'm trying to think of it. I Got a New Name, Over in Zion, and the way they would sing it. But Vic was a basser, and you could hear him. Once my father started the song, regardless of what part of the church Vic was in, you knew it was Vic. Because there was no such thing with the traveling sextet that you were out of tune. There was no such thing with the gospel travelers that you were out of tune. Vic Hester loved good singing. He loved good quartet singing. And it was the same way with Martha. I think Vic was with Martha there for a little while, singing. And he was the same way. You never hear them complain about what you're singing. You never hear them complain about singing it too long. Never hear them complain about too high. Vic just loved singing. I never will forget one time, he asked Burley, he used to call him boss. He said, "Hey, boss." He said, "When Mac get up to talk, I need to know what he gonna sing." I mean, it was just a joke. And Burley said, "I don't know why." He said, "If we sang a slow song, you gonna say boom, boom, boom. If we sang a fast song, you gonna say boom, boom, boom." He said, "So all you gotta do is just know how to boom." So, we just had fun together. Vic to me was like a father. And we had the group. We had the talent. But there was something else missing.
If the Lord
Now, you talking about talent. Michael, he was, by one of the talented people that I know here in Person County.
Now, Michael Whitfield, oh my God.
He was very talented.
He was what I consider to be a music genius.
Michael Whitfield was one of the most gifted people that ever come through the county.
Gifted. Genius.
Michael, he was the joy of my life, really. I miss him so much. He loved music. I never met a man that loved music as much. Every time I come in the house, music, which is fine with me. It was gospel music, serving the Lord.
David, Burley, or who approached Michael. And he said, "I love it." He said, "Because my father, they're getting old. They don't travel as much." He said, "I love it." He said, "Every chance I get, I will be there."
He could sing any part.
Bass, baritone, tenor, first soprano, second soprano, alto.
He could sing and he could play.
He played piano, organ,
guitar, both lead and bass,
drum, you name it, he could do it.
And he basically taught himself.
Could not read not one note. But all he had to do was hear that song. And I guarantee you he's able to play it. And that's nothing but the Lord. That's nothing but the Lord. When he was a little boy, he told me he used to listen to his daddy's quartet. And they may have a guitar player this week and may not next week. And he told his daddy, "Daddy, just buy me a guitar." So his daddy went to the dime store and bought him one of them little guitars like little kids be playing, And he kept playing it and playing it and playing it. He taught himself how to play. So he showed his mom and dad, "I can play the guitar." So he started playing that little dime store guitar. And then his mom and dad started singing. So his dad said, you know, I believe that boy gonna play that guitar. So his dad went to the pawn shop and bought him a guitar. So here's this little, I imagine 7 or 8 year old little boy with this big guitar playing. But he said, baby, I'm so proud. I was so proud because I was with my dad and I had what I wanted, and that was a guitar. One time he went to church, he said, and I saw this blind man on the piano. He said, I was just amazed. I kept looking at this man. He said, I can do that. I'm gonna do that. He told his mom and dad again, I want a piano or an organ. So finally he got an organ. He taught himself how to do that.
Back when they had the floppy disk, he would play all the parts and put them on there. And when he go to sing, he could put a floppy disk in and he could just sing, you know.
Michael was a whole quartet by himself. See, that was when he was a genius.
The first recording that I did, he and I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and we were in the studio, and I was like, well, you know, it ain't nobody but me and you. How we gonna do this album?
They had a 2-day schedule in the studio to do an entire album, and they did it. And I was there.
He played all of the instruments. He put all of the instruments on different tracks.
And then sing the background to each song, whether he was leading it or Stacy was leading it.
And we did all of the music, which was the first time I'd ever seen that done. But that's just how gifted he was, to just really do a whole album like that by himself.
If we went to a church, there was no one there. If he saw a piano or an organ and no one was playing it, Michael would get up and go down there and play. 9 times out of 10, it's not a song that he doesn't know. He stay abreast with all of the songs at that time. So once he find out the key that you were in, he got it from there and he's playing it.
Michael knew me like the back of his hand. If I was on a program and he was just there, and you know, and I said, well, I need you to play for me, you know, and he said, what are you gonna sing? And I tell him, then whatever song it was that I was about to sing, he would always key it. You know, he knew where to go. He knew where to put me.
He's willing to help anybody.
Mike Whitfield, he helped produce some of my music. Yeah, Mike could sing. He helped us sing everything, and they were just good people.
When you started singing, if you're wrong, you're gonna stop the song. Stop the song. Sing this part. Sing whatever your part was. Sing it by yourself. And that was hard. To sing your part by yourself. And I'd be nervous. I was nervous. I don't know what. He said, sing it. He said, no music. You want everybody to get back together. And I want you to keep that same voice that you singing it now. So Michael had helped me to find my voice and keep it instead of running from this song part, you know, to the other.
When it comes to weddings, funerals, he was there. Sometimes I wouldn't see him until about 11 o'clock at night, getting back home.
He sung and played for both of my daughter's weddings, and he was really outstanding.
And anytime I could call him, I said, Michael, can you be something just to play? He said, I'll see what I can do. He came and sang on the program with me, and I knew he was sick. But he said I'd be there.
He took singing back after his mom and dad, because his mama could sing.
His dad was one of those low, my voice can't even get that low. They would get up and sing at the radio station every Sunday morning where David was, and Michael would be there with his dad.
Mr. Whitfield was a part of the Silver Moon Quartet.
Silver Moon,
Silver Moon was the main
one.
The main group. I know.
Yeah.
We have historical information from the account of Mr. Roosevelt Whitfield that the group was organized in 1938. We also have historical information documenting that they were traveling as early as 1940 even to places like Bennettsville, South Carolina, where they had done a concert series and had gotten invited back. So this was a quartet that was well known and traveled locally as well as beyond state lines, even as early as 1940, which was just a couple of years after they were organized. They performed at the dedication ceremony for the Negro branch of the Person County Public Library. So Silver Moon Quartet was, up and running and singing way back. And in that regard, I would say they are one of the pioneering quartets in Person County that we know of.
I think the Silver Moon was more on that quartet style.
They was on the radio and everything.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they might have been
the first one.
First one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So the Silver Moon Quartet would come on Sunday mornings. I remember Mr. Roosevelt Whitfield, Mr. James Hopgood, Mr. Bo Holloway. I remember Mr. Garfield Jackson being with the Silver Moon Quartet, Michael Whitfield with the Silver Moon Quartet, and some of their songs, The Land of Fadeless Day, I believe it's called. One of the songs I think that I most enjoyed hearing, they didn't do it often, but they did it often enough, was John the Revelator. Mr. James Hopgood would do that. And it seemed like that song went on forever. And it was really only about 2 or 3 minutes, but the verses were just on and on and on. And it was engaging to listen to John the Revelator. And they did the arrangement that was recorded by the Golden Gate Quartet. So, they were on the gospel highway for decades and decades and decades. Certainly a pioneering gospel group here in Person County.
And in that group, they had, of course, Mr. Roosevelt Whitfield, Robert McGee, Percy Graves, and Freddie McGee sang with the Silver Moon Quartet.
My dad was Thomas Fred McGee, but everybody knew him as Freddie. My dad was a hardworking man. He spent time as a reserve officer for the Roxboro Police Department. He worked for Talbert's Lumber Company. He ran his own business as far as selling wood or whatever type of services you needed him to do. He was one of those type of guys. My mother was Lydia Pettiford McGee. Anybody in Roxboro knows Lydia. She worked at the bank for years. She was the first Black female police officer in Roxboro. Mom's path to gospel music was probably by default. Everyone in the Pettiford family is supposed to be able to sing somehow, some way, right? You grow up with MacArthur Pettiford, you grow up with Burley Pettiford, you grow up with all of these different awesome singers from Roxboro. Her passion was grown from simply listening and hearing her family sing, right? Whether that be in the house, in a tobacco field, or ultimately in church. The New Joylette singers were Aunt Van, Aunt Carolyn, Miss Fanny, and my mother.
Everything is gonna be all right. Be all right. Everything is gonna be all right.
We were a Joylette, then we came to be a New Joylette. So we were now as New Joylette singers because the old Joylette,
fade away,
and
we kept the name.
We kept the name. My band, myself, Fanny, Lydia, James Paler, Terry Whitty, Dexter Carver.
The New Joylettes, the group had been reorganized and the New Joylettes were singing. And she reached out to me about helping them out sometimes. And so from that, not only, birthed a working relationship with the New Joylette singers, but a beautiful friendship. Carolyn is a beautiful person.
So, here comes her gospel music career kind of coming full circle from just choir and singing with my father and things like that to being a part of the New Joylette singers.
The Anointed Jackson sisters out of Goldsboro invited the Joylettes to be a part of their tour. And so I traveled with the Joylettes down to Alabama for that tour series.
We travel a lot. The Joylette travel a lot too. We went to Alabama, Connecticut, South Carolina. We travel a lot. Joylette did. New Joylette did.
And, she found a lot of joy and enjoyment doing that. And it wasn't just about the singing, but it was about being around her sisters. They were second cousins, but they have always been sisters.
Come on now. All right,
The path for my dad had to be his love for music. He played bass guitar, he played lead guitar, taught himself to play keyboard. Now, could my dad look at a sheet of music and read that music? Probably not. But he could hear music. He could hear a sound, he could hear notes, and he could duplicate those notes. He was in several different groups. And I think distinctly what I remember, I was born in 1971, right? Was my dad had a process, right? And he had the slick back hair, the whole 9 yards that you would think of. He had the do-rag on at night. I remember Miss Martha, she would do his hair and slick his hair down. And everyone who came in, whether it was Vic or whoever, they had that same hair.
And we knew we were still one short. So we talked to James through David.
James Lunsford could sing all three parts.
Smooth. As far as knowing parts, I could sing any part.
James had a beautiful baritone voice and tenor.
James Lunsford, a man that I grew up loving to hear sing around the house. He was very instrumental in my life as far as me being a singer. But my dad loved the Dixie Hummingbirds. He would always play gospel music every Sunday morning. Sometimes on Saturday, he'd be playing it all the time and be singing their songs. And I would imagine he got a lot of his from his dad, which is my granddad, which his name is James Lunsford too.
James' father, Senior, was in the choir at Jones Chapel. And he had a high tenor voice. And I understand the voice.
I've heard stories of how he went around Roxboro with his group, the Gospel Four. And I had a distant cousin, Bo Holloway, and it was two other members. But I actually have the picture of the group on my phone now to kind of remind me of some of the history that has came down through me of the singing.
The Gospel Four, they was a tough group too. Yes, sir. Mr. Lunsford, James' dad.
My granddad was such a great singer that he was asked to be a part of the famous group, the Dixie Hummingbirds.
They came to Roxboro in 1950. I was 5 years old. They came here 2 or 3 times to get Mr. Lunsford to join that group. Now, I'm just tell you how good he was, and because he never did, because Ms. Lunsford, his wife, didn't want him to go on the road, so. And but that was James Lunsford, boy. Man, that was a singing man.
His sister would always tell me when I was young, when I first started singing, that I reminded her of my granddad a lot, just how I sounded and how I sung. She said he used to close his eyes when he sung and turn his head a certain way, and I have some of those characteristics of him. But my dad used to do similar things, so you don't know what you pick up when you watch adults sing when you're a kid, but you kind of, as you're mirroring the sound, you kind of mirror some of their characteristics.
If James was anything like his father, we wanted him. See, we wanted the best. We would take not no less than the best. So when James came aboard, he fit right in the mix with everybody else.
We just more or less come up in a quartet group family, you know, and we just followed through as children doing what their dads were doing, you know, and they had a whole lot to do with it.
I could hear them in the basement rehearsing or playing, and it was, to me, it was just noise as a child, right? But as I got older, I started to appreciate it as actual music.
At rehearsal, we would learn and a bunch of songs. I mean, it wasn't no limit to what we just sang until we got tired of singing, and sometimes that'd be 4 hours into rehearsal.
David loved to sing. I loved to sing. The Mighty Gospel Travelers loved to sing. So we had no problem if we called a rehearsal twice a week. We were always there. They were always on time. And we knew that once we stand before God's people in the church singing, everything had to be on key.
They were awesome. They would get up in front of a church and, you know, as they would say back then, sing the house down.
Victor Hester, my grandfather Victor Hester. And those guys, they were so rough, they was telling us when some of the major artists that had deals and stuff would come to town, they didn't want to come behind them because they were so gifted. And so they said they would bring the house down.
I can just recall going into some of these services and just being like, wow, number one, it's hot in here. But number two, these different groups, whether it was them or, oh my goodness, the Cashes and whatnot, they would come in and just hours upon hours of music and never get tired of it whatsoever.
With the Mighty Gospel Travelers, it was always fascinating as they started preparing for the anniversary of the group and what color was going to be the theme. And I think the one color that really, that just blew me away was when they came out in that purple suit with the white shirt, the white tie, and when they called them and they came out, the place erupted more than it normally would. It was like crazy.
The Spiritual Lights would put together, or Clegg's Chapel would put together the reunion concerts. And I remember seeing the Mighty Gospel Travelers come back together for that. And they were an audience favorite. Everybody just seemed to be in a frenzy.
Mike and Dave Aranza, he could sing.
Yes,
he could sing. Sing his heart out. Mac, he could sing. Sing his heart out.
Stacy, yes.
And Stacy. Then also George.
Yes.
Secular gospel singer. I think that was in I was about 20-something years old, and didn't know much about music. So Thomas Toran, he knows how to play the bass guitar and the lead guitar.
Back in 1967, I think, George and Jane Good came to my house to ask me about singing. So I told them, man, I don't know about singing, man. No, they want me to play. I said, I don't know, man. So they kept coming. So I really did join.
My sister-in-law, Mary Pettiford, my brother-in-law, George Pettiford, live on one side of me. My other brother, my real brother-in-law from the white side, live up on the left side of me from where I'm sitting. That's Robert Lunsford. We were real good friends. Matter of fact, we were kinfolks. We were with two sisters and we married them. We came here and got married and went back to New Jersey. George Pettiford stayed in New Jersey. I came back here to be of some help to my mother-in-law and father-in-law. Me and my wife, that's why we've been ever since right here. George came back maybe 6 or 7 years after.
So, where did singing come from for you?
Well, came from my brother-in-law, George, because I couldn't sing. But he said, you can talk, you can sing. And that's how I got started singing. Still can't sing.
So George wanted you to sing with him.
Oh yeah, that's where the St. Louis Gospel Singers came from. One day George said, "You going with me, Jay?" I said, "Where you going?" "Going home. We're gonna practice. Yeah, come on, go with me." And I went with him over there to his mother and father's house, and his father. They got started rehearsing, you know, and his father looked over there and seen me. He said, "What you come here for?" He looked kind of mean looking, you know. He said, "What you come here for?" I said, "I come to listen." "No, you didn't. You gonna sing." And that's where I got started trying to sing it. At George's father, well, at George's home house where he lived in. And that's after that we started this St. Louis Gospel Singers.
It was George Pettiford, James Goods, myself, Willie Woods, and Robert Lofton. We started singing and we sung. George was one of the main. I don't believe nobody ran in Roxboro because I was singing George Pettiford. Everybody wanted George Pettiford, but we had him. And George Pettiford, one of the singing guys that I ever seen in my life.
George, my brother-in-law, that's the loving sister's father. Really, he was the one encouraged me to play the bass guitar because I really thought I was good because he kept telling me that. But I still had to learn from other guys like David Ramsey, Poochie Harrison. But George he helped me a lot. He sung, but he couldn't play no instrument, but he could tell when I made a mistake.
It was in him because he come up with his family, they used to sing. Him and his brother and the daddy used to sing back in the day.
He could create his own sound. He would learn a song from another group, but he would do it his way. And he was real good.
But George was the type of guy that if you needed something, he would help you, do all he can to help you. I used to live in Virginia, way up the other side of Danville. They used to come up there to pick me up on the weekend, to bring me down here to sing, then take me back.
Well, Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus,
We sung like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. And anything that go on in Roxboro, we were there. It didn't have to be Roxboro, Hillsboro, anywhere. He just loved to sing. And he didn't want to disappoint nobody.
See, we had 4 or 5, sometimes 6 or 7 places to sing it on one Sunday. Everybody wanted, this ain't no brag, I'm telling the truth. If we went to a church and they called on St. Luke to sing, there wasn't many people left at that church. We had somewhere else to go.
You can ask anybody in Roxboro about the St. Luke Gospel Singing, they can tell you. We was I ain't bragging, one of the hottest groups in Roxboro. Everywhere we went, we had a trail of people following us every church we go to. That's how glad they wanted to see us sing. And we ain't gonna try to out-sing nobody. Because we didn't have no but one lead guitar, a lead guitar with an old amp about so big. That's all we had. And we did it for years too. We did it for years. We just, we get home 1 o'clock at night.
That's just where it was. Nobody trying to out-sing nobody. Nobody trying to sing pretty or big or nothing. People just like to hear us sing for some reason or another. And that's what we did. We did what we went out there to do. But we tried it anyhow.
Nobody ain't gonna believe this. They ain't gonna believe it. But one time, we messed around and did 5 programs on a Sunday. We did 5 on a Sunday. We would start every Sunday right after 12 because George had to work. George and Mark Woody, I forgot about him. They had to work. And when they got off work, they had their clothes with them. And we'd start from there and go sing in different churches every weekend.
Man, that's the best life I ever had. It's like during the time when everybody was working on the farm, and that's the only thing that we could do to have a good weekend, like get your mind off farming, and everybody just meet up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And, it kept you where you enjoy. You meet new people all the time, and sometimes you meet the same people, and you enjoy being around them. And they look like it was just a good life.
And we sung together. We did, I don't know, 15, 16 years, I guess, somewhere along in there together. Me and George, then some of them left. Some of the guys left. Then we had some new ones to come in. But me and George, Willie Woods, and Major Short, and Sawmill, we never did change. We stayed there from the beginning all the way to the end when the group faded on out. And George, he went on with the Loving Sisters.
I can tell you about the Loving Sisters. Loving Sisters.
Tell me who they are to you. And
they're my sisters. I'm the loving brother.
The Loving Sisters got started. My father, the late George Pettiford, started the group in the 70s. The group was he and my mom, Mary Pettiford. It was my Aunt Clara, we call her Clara, a close friend, Ellen. My dad gave the name. He formed the group. The musicians at that time were Isaac Day, Poogie, and Bruh Harrison, which was Clara's brothers. And the drummer was George. George Fuller was the drummer. I was about 4 or 5. And my dad, I used to sing with them. My dad and I sang a song together, I'll Fly Away by Spencer Taylor and the Highway QCs. I was a little girl, used to stand me in the chair because I was so tiny. But the Loving Sisters, with my mom, Clara, and Ellen, they sang everywhere, up and down, anywhere in North Carolina, Virginia area. A lot of groups we were connected that formed from the Loving Sisters was Alexander and the Singing Stars, which were the children of the Loving Sisters. My sister and I, Alexander, Sharon Bratcher, and Michelle Bratcher were Ellen and Doug Bratcher's children. So Doug actually formed, he and his wife Ellen at the time, they formed Alexander and the Singing Stars. And when we were older, we traveled with them. But from the time my father formed the group, then I think, when I got older, he started singing with the Silver Stars out of Hillsboro, North Carolina. And then we, from that point, when he started singing with them, it was myself, my mother, Clara, and my sister Regina, Jerry, and my cousin Robert. We called him Pug, Robert Lunsford Jr. So he played the bass. Jerry played the guitar for us after his father played. From that, it just stemmed from, then it ended up, everybody kind of went their different directions going to college. And I stayed, my sister went off to college, which she was a little bit older than I. Then it was just my mother, myself, and Clara. So it was just the 3 of us. And Jerry, he would come back home every weekend, and that's when he became Jerry, and it became Jerry and the Loving Sisters. When my father passed in 1986, we stopped singing for a while, and then everybody was kind of growing up in college, and then we started back in the early 90s. And with the early 90s, this is the group that you have now. It was myself, my mom, my sister Frida, and my sister Alicia. My sister Regina came, but as she finished college, so she joined the group again. So now the group, my mom, after Clara passed, and my sisters and I, which is now the current group now, which is all sisters, and my niece of India and my daughter Courtney. So Courtney has been with the group probably about 10 years now.
The Loving Sisters, they're like my all-time favorite gospel group. Just the harmony, just the love, the connection, just the spiritual base behind them. I remember sitting and watching Pam and just be like, oh my God. And to grow up as an adult and to have that group still stop me in my tracks, I mean, that says a lot.
They started right in the house where we stayed at, in Person County, and they just it just evolved after that. It just kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and now they going all over the place, you know. But it started right in the home, and out there in Allenville, on Nelson Lee Road.
George began to sing with the Loving Sisters, but still he was a branch off from the traveling sextettes. So then after the Mighty Gospel Travelers, after I went into the ministry and I left Roxboro, the Mighty Gospel Travelers, they kind of laid back. They really didn't stop singing because some of them joined the church choirs and just kept singing. But from the Mighty Gospel Travelers, branched off was the Gospel Supremes, who was already a member of the Mighty Gospel Travelers. That was Michael Whitfield, David Ramsey, and James Lunsford.
When we organized, after we came out of the Mighty Gospel Travelers, it was just James, Michael, and myself. We were trying to get a name, and at one time it was Diana Ross and the Supremes. I thought about David Ramsey and the Supremes, but then we changed it from David Ramsey and the Supremes to the Gospel Supremes, which was more appropriate, we thought. The Lord just kept blessing us to be a blessing to somebody else because they kept inviting us, and we recorded a song that says, "We are the Gospel Supremes," and that was on a 45.
We are the Gospel Supreme, yeah. Bringing God's message with our song, and we hope that you love us.
The Gospel Supremes used to practice at my house a lot, so me being a little boy, I would always go down and sit in and sometimes try to join in with the songs and try to sing what they were singing. That's how I really learned parts, listening to them, Michael Whitfield, David, and my daddy practicing.
Michael, I think he loved singing with three voices, and that's probably why we sung together, just three of us, so long, because the harmony was so close, it would sound like four. I mean, even though it was just three of us, but we just had that closer harmony.
I used to listen to Michael sing high notes, used to listen to my dad bass, so I used to try to do all of that. I wasn't old enough to sing with the group yet. My brother actually sung with the Gospel Supremes, and he actually had parts that he sung with them. So he was able to actually sing with them, and I was young, but wanting to sing, but I was too young to get in the group. So.
Love you, 'cause we all must be as one to make it through.
And later, Stacy, he joined the group, and he became our lead singer.
When they first formed the group, then I sung with them a few times. And then when I was able to really step in, then I kind of changed the style, you know, because the older style that they had, which was nothing wrong with it, because everybody couldn't sing that style. I mean, those guys were just those three, just amazing. Being at some of the rehearsals, and they just be fooling around, and just, you know, one would just might start a song, and the other ones knew exactly where to go without being told. But they, so I learned a lot from them.
after he started singing, because he used to do, like I said, follow Mac up and down the aisle when he was a little guy before we started singing. But after he started singing, Williams Brothers became his focal point, and he loved Williams Brothers at Jackson Southern Ave.
The Williams Brothers. So that came into play after my uncle ended up moving to, I want to say, New Jersey. So I kind of felt like I had to kind of find my way. And my sister had these 2 albums. One of them was Jackson Southern Ave's, other one Williams Brothers. It's just a different style that I had, they had not heard. And so working with Michael Whitfield closely, he could pick up on anybody's song, or it was just like he just had a gift for it. So he at that time was really the only person that could actually play that stuff, play it to make it sound like the original. And so I just got into that particular style, and and even today that style is still there. And then I also every now and then the style that my uncle had, so you kind of put them together.
We sung so close to the Williams Brothers. A lot of people thought we did the recording. I mean, we used to go to Henderson, they used to call us the little Williams Brothers. I mean, that was just that close.
But I take my burdens and I leave them there. Wallace, if you don't mind. He said, sometime I will about you.
Then later on, Wallace Hespeth joined the group.
Growing up as a child, I remember Mr. Bob Jack, Mr. Wade, and Wallace Hespeth. And that name of that group were the True Lights. So we named ours the Spiritual Life. We said if we could be half as good as that group, then we feel like we would be blessed.
My dad, Lucius Hedgepeth Sr., he's known throughout as Bob Jack. Everyone referred to him as Bob Jack. So started at a young age when we were, just small kids. He'd always have us sing during church service. He started with a group called the Golden Sons, I believe, was one of the groups. And then in the next group I remember was the True Lights, and he was a True Light all his life.
The members to begin with was Matthew Wade, my dad, Lucius Hespeth, we called him Bob Jack, and that was Ben Bass, and Brother D.C. Parker, and years earlier that was Donnell Parker, Palmer Harris,
Lee Cates,
and Lee Cates, and Pete Jacob.
Well, I got started with the True Lights in 1936. But they used to rehearse it at our house when they first started the group. And I wasn't but 5 years old. Brother Matthew Wade joined us in it was somewhere in the early 50s, about 53. Him and myself was the 2 top leaders in the group.
My dad, Brother Matthew Wade, everybody called him bruh, but whatever voice was needed, my dad could sing it. That's just how gifted and talented he was.
Soprano, he could sing it. Alto, he could sing it. Second soprano, he could sing it. Whatever you needed. Tenor, bass, it didn't matter. He could sing it.
I remember he sang, and it just surprised me. I think I was at a church service, and when he began to sing this song, I was like, wow, what woman did they get over there in the True Lights that's singing this part? And it was called Sleep On My Love. And he went way to the top, and I was like, whoa, that's my dad.
To me, was no one to could out-sing my dad. Nobody. Not to me, it wasn't.
And then we had one of our older members, Brother Lucius Hespes, which was Wallace Hespes' dad. I guess you heard of him. Brother D.C. Parker. He was the manager of the group. He was the one that started it.
So they gathered men in the community that knew one another, that all of them had these talents. And you talking about that True Light harmony was a harmony that you just don't hear a lot of it today. It was that harmony that you find mostly in families. And even though they were not direct families, because of the way we lived in those days, everyone, it took a village to raise a child. That's the way we were raised. So they were family in that sense. They all lived close by one another. They were raised together. So that's what made their harmony click.
And the harmony was so tight. You had Mr. Lucius Hespes, we called him Bob Jack. He was doing the baritone or bassing.
What was that song he used to sing? I am leaning on Jesus. Everybody loved to hear. And my dad used to sing things like, keep on using me.
Keep on using me, Lord Jesus. And I mean, like, wherever I go, people remember that song out of anything. And the thing they would say, he said, you know what, Mr. Bro Wade, he would sing that song and he'd cut it off right when you get into it. He was something like that.
Growing up, my biggest thing was how much we traveled with Dad, because Dad was singing everywhere. You name it, he was there. We were there too.
We traveled all over with my dad, North Carolina, and maybe some lower parts of Virginia and South Carolina.
2 or 3 churches on a Sunday, all weekend, even on Friday night, Saturday night, that kind of thing.
Mom would cook food and stuff. We started in the morning, and it'd be night before we'd be going home.
What drove you to do all of that? 3 programs on a Sunday.
Trying to serve God. See, that's what we was about. Was trying to do God's will. We weren't so much in doing people's will.
It was just an awesome thing. And I even remember as a child how we would watch them, because you have to understand now, I grew up from a child to an adult watching my dad, going with my dad, singing with the True Lights.
Come See Day. That was the biggest event that happened in Bahama, because you knew you were coming, exactly what they named it, come and see what you're going to see at his program. And that was the True Lights anniversary.
We was up here on 86. One Sunday, he was telling about it. And he said folks always want to know who you're going to have on the program. He said, I was thinking to myself, and I told the group about it, and they think it's a fine thing. Just tell them, come and see. His daddy was like that. Yeah, he named it. He had told us about it. He go tell them, it's called Come and See. If you want to see who will be on the group, come on and see who's going to be on it. And that's what we always kept all the way through the whole group time.
Mr. Ben Bass, he had the I would say he was the mellow fellow, you know what I mean? And, you know, that had that voice that, I'm not gonna say would catch a girl's eye, you know, if he was on the R&B circuit, but it was just so smooth, you know what I mean? He wasn't a raw singer, he was smooth with it.
Later on, Travis Parker joined them.
And, you know, Travis, he filled in, you know, with the tenor, or, you know, higher alto for a male. And then, you know, Mr. DC, he was the hype man. He was the leader of the group, but he was the hype man. They didn't have hype men back in the day, but Mr. DC would get the crowd hyped into it.
He would strum that guitar and sing and even dance with it. While he had it on, he would just dance.
No, he liked to run. That's what he does. He'd be up there in the group. If he's leading the song and the spirit hit him, or he'd take out right down the middle aisle. And we went up here to New Hampshire Grove on a Sunday evening on some group's anniversary. And he had got filled up with spirit and went down the aisle as far as his chord on his guitar would let him go. All at once he turned around, spirit hit him here, he come running back to the group. And he was coming right straight to me. And I said, now the speed he got up, he ain't gonna stop. He come and jumped right up around my neck, him and the guitar.
Granddaddy would rear back and sing something, and he would yell out. He always would come out, oh, sing something like that. Get everybody into it. He'd be bouncing, jigging. I mean, those guys. You know, clean suits, matching, you know, froze some of them out to here.
They were the original True Lights. And then they came up with the new True Lights, I think.
Dad, my older brother, Lucius Jr., we call him June. There was Wallace and my brother-in-law, Edgar Outlaw. They sung as the True Light Travelers. I guess they were barely beyond teenagers, I guess. Rufus Turntime sang with them once. That was Collie Tharp would sing with them sometime. That was even Ben Wade would sing with them sometime. But finally they came, the True Light Travelers was those four. My dad, Edgar, Lucius, and Wallace. Dad just loved to sing with the boys. And Wallace started singing more professional level with the Gospel Supremes.
When he came to the group, man, he came with a bunch of experience about gospel music, and he played the guitar. He was just a jewel. I mean, and plus he was so easy to get to know and to like. When you see them around at different churches and different services, they would be singing, we'd be singing, and so it was kind of, when I mentioned to him about him, he told me, he said, man, I've been wanting to sing with you. So you got the opportunity, you know. So that's when he came with us, and he still sang with his dad's group at that time, and the Angelic Supremes.
And that was me, Teresa Burton, and Shirley Wade, and she's Bishop Apostle Anthony now, and Sharon Brooks. We were all called the Angelic Three. And then come about, that since we was more than three of us, that with Michael Whitfield, with Wallace Heck Smith and all them, they said, you know, it's not three, we're gonna have to change this tune. And so that's how we got the Angelic Supremes.
That was a really popular group. They were big sticklers for uniform. I mean, Teresa had us, we had to have on the same bracelets, the same earrings, our stockings had to be the same, shoes, everything. They were really sticklers for that.
Wallace was a great guitar player, and I tell you, he would keep you going and could sing. And, you know, because his brothers was actually singing with he was actually, coming in with the NJ with Supremes to help us out,
Him and his brothers, all of them can sing. The Hedgepeth brothers.
Wallace was by far the inspiration for the Hedgepeth brothers. When we got back together, my brother Wallace had a notion to record.
Wallace wrote the songs, and we just come in and recorded them.
I did a few writing on some of the songs, or one or two of the songs that I recorded with the Gospel Supremes. I would take and I would start writing a song, and I would get to a point, and I run it by him, and I said, I need you to finish this song. And he finished them all. Where he came up with the words or how he put it together, he just was gifted.
Uncle Wallace is super talented. Always ready to create something. Always ready to start another project somewhere. Between the grandkids, heard them singing in the back seat. His daughter Lisa called and said, "Hey, Daddy, listen," and then the Bradleys formed from there.
My kids were really young when the Bradley started. I want to say Quincy might have been 4 or 5, and he was maybe 7 or 8. And we were actually just riding in the car. I was riding, they were in the back seat, and I started singing this song. I mean, it was just really amazing. They just jumped right in, and it was just 3-part harmony just out of nowhere. I was so shocked, and Daddy would tell that story a lot. I was so shocked, I called Daddy on the phone and I said, "You will not believe this. The kids are singing with me and they're just harmonizing." And he came down to my house and he started singing and we all just jumped right in. It was just unbelievable that they were that young.
Quincy was 5 years old. Melissa Wade over at Channel 103, I think at 103.9, she would always promote the Martin Luther King Day over in Raleigh. And she would invite Quincy, and he was a little 5-year-old. He'd get up and do his solo. I mean, and he did it well. He just didn't, it was singing like a grown-up back then.
It was at the Progress Energy Center in Raleigh. And I mean, he had the whole place. He started crying in the middle of the song. It was the spirit. It wasn't fear. He was feeling the spirit at that age. And Melissa was like, I remember her saying, "Is he crying?" And she came out there and she got a little emotional. But everybody was just like praising. Tariq liked to be in the background. Even when we would sing, he'd be backing up. And Dad would be like, "Come out, Tariq, come out." And he didn't care a lot for the spotlight. And he still doesn't. Even with all the things he does, he still kind of likes to be in the background. Quincy was just really bold, would step out there and sing, and he still does.
Tariq, when he was younger, he didn't want to play keyboard when he first started. Wow. And Mr. Wiles said, "Hey, you got to trust me. This music's going to teach you to do something better." It did. Now he's in Italy right now,
just doing it
with art in Italy. I mean, it's unheard of. Just because Mr. Wallace, implemented inside of him, like, hey, this music thing. Because Mr. Wallace wanted to do the going up across the country and doing all this stuff music-wise, but he decided to stay back in his family. Now his grandson has an opportunity. Now he's doing it.
My grandpa definitely, got me started on everything. I remember my first toy being a guitar, and I remember running behind him with the Gospel Supremes to all the programs and just watching him play. And he instilled a lot of me, just outside stuff that's outside of music that helped me today. From being on the road and stuff, just like how to say no to drugs, and we had plenty of talks. I used to call him when I used to do certain shows. I'll call him after every show just to talk to him, let him know, what was going on and how everything went. And even now, I do be missing him. I wish I could, call him.
He was hard on us. And that rehearsal was just, me and Richard Carrington Jr., which is RJ, we used to look at each other like, I hope you don't look at us and tell us we not right, because he is going hard on his grandkids.
Him being tough on the practices, if he hears something wrong, he'll stop right then and there and try to fix it. And he was all about rehearsal, and I feel like that's how I am. I know I got that from him, because even with me being on the road and stuff like that, we would have like 12-hour rehearsals, 13-hour rehearsals, and we may be on one song for like 5 hours. And it didn't bother me at all. You know what I'm saying? Because he loved to rehearse, so I know for a fact I got that from him. And then sometimes I wish I could call him and let him know how long those rehearsals be, because he would love to hear that.
He just loved it. Loved to have a huge passion for it. I used to love going down there all the time just to even listen, not even to play anything, but just to listen to him.
I can certainly remember growing up and hearing them on the radio. Local radio on Sunday mornings, the lineup, as I recall, was the Mighty Harmoniers, then the Traveling Echoes. After that, the Silver Moon Quartet, and then the Gospel Supremes.
We having a program, they with us. They having a program, we with them. But they were good singers. They're good. They're good.
It was always a treat to watch the Gospel Supremes because of the talent in the group. And just to see, number one, the camaraderie within the group, but then what seemed to be the natural talent. The chemistry was there. They knew each other so well. Some of them had sung together in other groups. So they had this natural, it seemed, type of chemistry that allowed them to not only sing what they rehearsed, but to even in the moment do what I felt like was some spontaneous riffing, some spontaneous, playing off of each other in the moment, which is always great to see in gospel music, because a lot of times what we see in gospel music, particularly quartet, can be in the moment, whether prompted by the Holy Spirit or whether it's just a result of the natural chemistry that exists within the group to be able to just kind of play off of each other because you know each other so well. The Gospel Supremes are one of the groups that really set the bar, maybe even raised the bar when it came to quartet music.
I could come back to Roxboro just visiting weekend or something, and they were on a program. And they would see me there, but they'd always call me up to sing a song with them. I could go up and we would jail right in together. The only thing they did was change the name. They just took a new name for themselves. The Gospel Supreme was the Mighty Gospel Traveler.